What if everything you've been told about Meghan Markle and her time with the royal family is a lie? What if there's a dark undercurrent to her behavior? Something so carefully hidden that the public has only scratched the surface? Could it be that Meghan had a secret agenda all along? One so daring, so shocking, it could change the way we view her forever? For years, we've watched Meghan step into the spotlight, smiling, hugging, and making headlines. But what if those smiles were hiding something much deeper? What if her friendly gestures weren't just signs of affection, but calculated moves designed to manipulate those around her? And what if, just maybe, she wasn't aiming for Prince Harry's heart, but for someone far more powerful? Stick around, because what we're about to uncover is not just another royal gossip story. It's the unmasking of a game that no one ever thought to question. A game where the stakes are higher than you can imagine, and the players are more ruthless than you think. Hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. When Meghan Markle entered the royal family, it seemed like a fairy tale. A Hollywood actress, a woman of color, and an outsider who had captured the heart of Prince Harry. The media painted a picture of a love story straight out of a dream, with the world cheering them on. But as time went on, cracks began to show, and those cracks have now widened into an undeniable rift. Let's start by looking at the official narrative. Meghan, the warm, compassionate woman who just wanted to make the world a better place, was supposedly met with coldness and resistance by the royal family. Prince William, always the serious, stoic figure, is portrayed as the one who never fully accepts her. The media spotlight focused on Meghan's desire for change, her frustration with royal protocols, and the infamous cuddle moments. At first, it all seemed innocent enough. Meghan was just trying to fit in, after all. But ask yourself, was she really just a warm-hearted woman seeking connection? Or was there something more strategic behind her actions? Could her over-friendliness be part of a carefully constructed image, designed to infiltrate the royal family, create alliances, and slowly position herself at the top of the hierarchy? This is where the story starts to get murky. Meghan's behavior, particularly her insistence on hugging and engaging with everyone in sight, didn't exactly fit the traditional royal mold. The royal family is known for its decorum, its formality, and its boundaries. Yet Meghan's warmth, her California charm, was, to put it mildly, uncomfortable for those around her. What's more, it wasn't just a case of misplaced enthusiasm. It was persistent, and it was directed at the most powerful figures in the family. Here's the first question. Why did she repeatedly try to be physically close to Prince William? In particular, William, a wise man who had his own family, his own obligation, and a wife who was never too far from his side. Was this truly a cultural misunderstanding? Or could it have been a more deliberate attempt to get close to the heir to the throne? What's even more baffling is that William, usually composed and reserved, clearly seemed uncomfortable with her advances. There's no shortage of reports claiming that he'd flinch or subtly pull away when Meghan came in for yet another hug. And while Meghan might have brushed it off as her nature, one has to wonder, was she truly this naive, or was this part of a greater plan? We can't ignore the historical parallels either. Think about Wallis Simpson, another American who caught the eye of a British royal. Wallis, too, was an outsider who became entwined in the royal family, eventually leading to a scandal that rocked the monarchy. Like Wallis, Meghan entered a world she didn't truly understand, but quickly realized could offer her everything she wanted. However, unlike Wallis, who ultimately had a direct claim to the king, Meghan had to be far more subtle, using charm, wit, and yes, physical proximity to entrench herself into the royal fold. But here's the kicker. Despite her charm and relentless social maneuvers, it didn't work. William wasn't falling for it. Even though she tried everything from playful eye contact to overt physical gestures, he maintained his distance. Why? Could it be that, unlike Harry, who was blinded by love, or perhaps something more, William wasn't fooled by Meghan's tactics? This leaves us with a key question. If William wasn't responding to her, what was Meghan really after? Was it just attention? Or was it more, perhaps an attempt to position herself as the next queen, with William by her side? What's even more intriguing is that she may have suspected that Harry wasn't enough. He might have been a prince, but in terms of wealth, status, and power, Meghan quickly realized that he wasn't quite the jackpot she was hoping for. It's no secret that Harry's worth, around $20 million, paled in comparison to William's much higher figure. And when Meghan discovered this, it must have been a shock. A royal marriage might come with glittering gowns and endless publicity, but without the financial clout of the heir to the throne. It wasn't quite the dream she imagined. At this point, we need to stop and ask, was Meghan simply adjusting her strategy? Was Harry always second choice to William in her eyes, with her ultimate goal being to seduce the true power in the royal family? The evidence points to the possibility that Meghan's ambitions may have always extended far beyond Prince Harry. And the more we dig into her behavior, the clearer it becomes that her relationship with the royal family was anything but innocent. But let's hold that thought, because what we're uncovering here is just the tip of the iceberg. Meghan's actions may have been far more calculated than any of us realized. And as we continue to piece together this puzzle, one thing is certain: there's more to this story than meets the eye. What Meghan did next, and how the royal family reacted, may just be the most shocking twist of all. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll uncover some of the real reasons behind the royal family's growing discontent with Meghan. What are they hiding? And how deep does this web of manipulation go? Now that we've seen the surface level of Meghan's behavior and her apparent attempts to get closer to Prince William, we must ask ourselves, what's actually going on behind the scenes? The version of events that the public is fed may not be the whole story. Far from it. Meghan's warm, sunny demeanor and California girl charm might have been just the beginning of a much deeper strategy. The question remains, why was Meghan so desperate to hug and invade the personal space of the royal family, particularly William? Is it merely a cultural misunderstanding, as some claim? Or was it a tactical move designed to break down the formal barriers of the royal family? The simple truth is that Meghan, no matter how much she might claim to be an innocent, free-spirited woman, was always aware of her surroundings. She knew exactly what she was doing, and her body language said everything. Let's think about it for a moment. Why did Meghan repeatedly choose to engage with William this way? She was, after all, married to Harry. But it seems clear she knew, from the moment she stepped into the royal family, that the true power lay with William, not Harry. Prince William, as the heir to the throne, was the figurehead of the royal family. His status, wealth, and future role as king made him the key to any real power within that world. Meghan, for all her charm, likely knew this from the beginning. Think back to the infamous Scarfgate incident. If you recall, after a public appearance, William was seen fiddling with his scarf, looking uncomfortable, all while Meghan was practically batting her eyes at him. What was going on here? Was it really just an innocent gesture from a huggy Californian girl, as Meghan would have us believe? Or was this an intentional ploy, one that William clearly recognized and tried to avoid? In fact, this behavior aligns with patterns we've seen before in history. Look at Wallis Simpson, who also attempted to worm her way into the royal family by using charm, sexuality, and, ultimately, manipulation. Wallis, much like Meghan, didn't just marry the prince, she sought power. And when she couldn't get it through traditional means, she worked tirelessly to break down the family's boundaries. Meghan, too, was keenly aware of the royal family's old-fashioned rules. But instead of playing by them, she attempted to bend the rules to suit her, leveraging her charm to get closer to those who mattered most. But there's more to it than just proximity. Let's dive into the contradictions here. Meghan, who supposedly felt the cold shoulder from the royal family, was also reported to have made cutting remarks about her new family members. For instance, she reportedly commented on how serious William and Charles were all the time, and jokingly questioned why they didn't seem to have fun. Was this mere banter, or was it a subtle way to undermine the royal family's decorum? It's clear that Meghan, despite all her outward charm, was not particularly interested in embracing the royal family's values. Instead, she seemed to view them as outdated, something she could change, something she could reshape according to her own vision. Why then? You might wonder, did Meghan persist in trying to ingratiate herself with William, even when it was clear he wasn't receptive? Here's where it gets really interesting. Meghan wasn't just aiming for a family role, she was aiming for status. William, with all his power, influence, and future kingly position, was her true target, and when he didn't respond the way she hoped, the frustration was palpable. A woman used to getting what she wanted. Meghan must have felt increasingly frustrated as her moves were deflected by a man who wasn't as easily manipulated as her husband, Harry. But here's the thing. Why did Harry, who was clearly aware of the tensions between Meghan and the rest of the royal family, seem so oblivious to it all? Was he too deeply in love to see what was happening? Or did he believe the narrative Meghan spun for him? That William and Catherine were simply being cold and distant? Whatever the case, it's clear that Harry was not the one calling the shots in his marriage. Meghan was. And that dynamic, whether consciously or subconsciously, played into her strategy of breaking through the royal family's barriers. At this point, we must ask, was Meghan really the innocent newcomer she portrayed herself to be? Or was she a woman who carefully crafted a narrative of victimhood while pushing her own agenda? In the next section, we will look deeper into the real motivations behind her actions, starting with how she exploited Harry's insecurities and used her proximity to the family for her own gain. Stay with us, because the bombshells keep coming. Is Meghan really the victim in this story? Or is there a darker side to her rise in the royal family that we've been ignoring? By now, we've pieced together some key moments in Meghan Markle's time with the royal family. But the question still lingers. What was her real goal? Was it simply fitting in? Or was she playing a much larger game all along? Let's dig deeper into the evidence that might provide us with some shocking answers. If you look closely at Meghan's interactions, it's hard to ignore the patterns emerging from her behavior. We've seen her hug and invade the personal space of Prince William, actions that seem to go far beyond mere friendliness. But the real question here is, why did she do it? Could it be that Meghan was simply using physicality to create a sense of closeness? Or was it part of a carefully crafted strategy to secure her place in the royal hierarchy? Let's start with the elephant in the room, Meghan's power play. Meghan didn't just want to be a part of the royal family. She wanted to reshape it. We saw it in her words, in her actions, and in her consistent push to challenge the status quo. From day one, she made it clear that the traditional royal life, its rigid rules, its formality was not for her. Yet, at the same time, she kept pushing herself into that very space, looking for ways to integrate and find her spot among the royals. But what was her ultimate goal? We've heard numerous accounts, both public and private, about Meghan's desire to be seen as a modern royal, someone who could break through the barriers of tradition. This didn't just stop at her public appearances. It also extended to her behind-the-scenes behavior. For instance, the rumors about Meghan attempting to get close to William and her repeated engagements with him weren't just about small talk or pleasantries, they were about positioning herself. Meghan knew that the future of the monarchy, and thus her future, depended on William. Why else would she repeatedly try to forge a connection with him, even after sensing his discomfort? Now, let's consider some real-world parallels. Throughout history, we've seen numerous instances of outsiders, those who weren't born into power, trying to use relationships, both personal and professional, to secure a place at the top. Look at Wallis Simpson, an American woman who entered the royal family and nearly tore it apart. Her ambition wasn't hidden, and she was willing to manipulate every situation to her advantage. Was Meghan following in Wallis's footsteps, aware that her entry into the royal family could be her stepping stone to something much bigger than just being married to Harry? Meghan's history of using her charm and influence is no secret. Her past as a Hollywood actress, always in the public eye, is marked by calculated moves to get ahead. So, why should we believe her actions in the royal family were anything less strategic? The fact that she was willing to push boundaries, even with the most powerful people in the royal family, shouldn't surprise us. She was, after all, looking for her place in a world that was dominated by William, the heir to the throne. Let's not forget the critical turning point here. The money. Meghan must have realized early on that Harry, with his relatively modest fortune of $20 million, couldn't provide the kind of wealth and status she craved. But William? He was a different story entirely. Prince William was not just an influential figure. He was the future king. Could it be that Meghan saw him as a more secure source of power and financial support? Was she thinking that Harry, who seemed to be the backup prince, wasn't enough to give her the life she truly wanted? When Meghan discovered that Harry's fortune was far less than what she had imagined, that could have been a pivotal moment for her. But instead of backing down or adjusting to the reality of her situation, she began shifting her attention elsewhere. Perhaps her flirtations with William were less about personal affection and more about a calculated attempt to ingratiate herself with the real power in the royal family. Here's a startling thought. What if Meghan was never truly interested in Harry's wealth or even his royal status? What if, instead, Harry was just the vehicle she needed to get closer to the real prize? Meghan may have seen Harry as an avenue to enter the royal family, but once inside, it's possible she quickly realized that the power she sought wouldn't come from him. No, it would come from William, the man who could lead the monarchy, who could offer her the wealth, influence, and status she desperately craved. But here's the twist that many seem to overlook. Harry never stood a chance. His desperation to make Meghan happy clouded his judgment, and in his blind pursuit of love, he failed to recognize that Meghan's love for him might have always been conditional. Was he ever truly the one she wanted? Or was he just a stepping stone to something far grander? As we close in on the final part of this investigation, one thing is clear. Meghan's true ambitions are just beginning to surface. What we've seen so far may have been carefully staged. But the real story, what she was really after, has yet to fully unfold. In the next section, we'll explore the fallout from Meghan's actions and the devastating consequences that have rippled through the royal family. Stay tuned for the most explosive revelations yet. So, is Meghan really the victim here, or has she been playing a much larger game all along? The evidence points to one thing. The stakes were higher than anyone imagined. Now, as we step back and take a hard look at everything that's unfolded, we must ask, who really benefits from all of this? Who's pulling the strings behind Meghan Markle's rise? And is there more at play than just a royal outsider seeking a place in the monarchy? The twists and turns of Meghan's story don't just end with personal ambition. The bigger question is, what if there's a hidden agenda? An agenda that goes beyond Meghan's own desires? At this point, it's crucial to take a step back and think about the broader implications of what we've seen so far. Meghan, though often portrayed as a victim of royal coldness, is likely playing a much more sophisticated game. Her repeated attempts to get closer to William, her manipulation of public perception, and her relentless pushing against the royal norms suggests something more calculated than mere frustration with royal life. What if Meghan's actions were not just about her own ambitions, but about serving a larger, even more strategic purpose? Let's start with the timeline. Meghan and Harry's rapid courtship raised eyebrows from the start. They met, became engaged, and were married within a few short years. But what if this wasn't as spontaneous as it seemed? Could it be that Meghan was strategically using her relationship with Harry to gain access to the royal family and, in turn, position herself in a place of power and influence? After all, Meghan wasn't just any commoner. She was a media-savvy woman with a background in Hollywood, where image, control, and influence are everything. What we often overlook is that Meghan's entry into the royal family came at a time of immense change and uncertainty for the monarchy. Prince Charles, the future king, is not exactly universally beloved, and William's eventual ascension to the throne is inevitable. But what if Meghan realized that, with the right moves, she could carve out a place for herself in a new world order? The monarchy is in a transition phase, and Meghan seemed to recognize an opportunity to shape her own destiny through her marriage to Harry, and eventually by targeting the most influential royal, Prince William. But who else could be involved in this narrative? The more we look, the more we see signs that Meghan's ambition might not have been a solo venture. Could there be external forces guiding her actions? It's no secret that the media has played a significant role in shaping Meghan's public persona. Was it merely the power of the press at play? Or could there be other players behind the scenes, orchestrating events to put Meghan at the forefront? It's worth considering whether Meghan's every move has been carefully timed, with certain factions of the media complicit in amplifying her narrative. History offers us a precedent for this. Look at the case of Wallis Simpson, whose relationship with King Edward VIII caused a royal crisis. Simpson, like Meghan, was an outsider, a woman who had been married before, and one who quickly seized the opportunity to gain power. While Simpson's motives were clear, she wanted to marry the king, she also knew that her role in this story could have much wider implications. In much the same way, Meghan understood that her position within the royal family wasn't just about being a duchess. It was about gaining control and taking on a greater role. So, what are the consequences of this? The fallout from Meghan's actions has been significant. The royal family has been divided, and Harry, in particular, seems to be caught in a tug-of-war between loyalty to his wife and his family. But it's not just Harry who's affected, it's the future of the monarchy itself. If Meghan had her way, the very nature of the royal family could change. Could she have been looking for a way to modernize the monarchy according to her own vision? Or was it always about power, prestige, and, ultimately, using her marriage to Harry as a means to an end? Here's the most startling thought. Meghan's pursuit of Prince William may not have been as far-fetched as it seems. There are rumors that she saw Harry as a stepping stone, a way into the family. But when she realized that Harry didn't have the power or wealth she had expected, she turned her gaze toward the future king. Is it possible that Meghan, in her endless drive for power, sought to break up the royal dynamic, push William and Catherine apart, and become the center of attention in the royal family? As we near the end of this investigation, the pieces of this puzzle are starting to come together. Meghan Markle, far from being a naive outsider, may have been a much more calculating figure in the royal family saga than anyone realized. But what does this mean for Harry? And for the monarchy? Could Meghan's manipulations be the key to Harry's downfall within the royal family? Is it possible that Harry, so desperate for love and approval, was too easily swayed by Meghan's ambitions? And here's the final twist. Could it be that Meghan's grand plan backfired? Could she have miscalculated the loyalty of the royal family and underestimated their resolve to protect their legacy? As the story continues to unfold, one thing is clear. Meghan's actions, no matter how they're spun, are far from innocent. She might have thought she could play the royal game, but the rules of this game are more complex and dangerous than she ever imagined. So, what's next? Stay tuned. We'll continue to uncover the hidden truths behind this royal saga, as we look deeper into Meghan and Harry's future and the shocking twists that lie ahead. As we peel back the layers of Meghan Markle's royal journey, We're left with more questions than answers. Was Meghan simply a woman seeking to fit into an age-old institution? Or was she a master strategist with a grand plan all along? Her actions, from her physical proximity to Prince William to her attempts to shift the monarchy's dynamics, suggest far more complexity than we've been led to believe. Could she have been playing a longer game, seeking power not just through Harry, but through alliances with the royal family's most influential members? Or is this just an unfortunate series of missteps? We've only scratched the surface, and as this story continues to evolve, the true motivations behind Meghan's rise might reveal more surprising twists. What do you think? Was Meghan's ambition a well-crafted strategy, or was she simply overwhelmed by the royal machine? The pieces of the puzzle are still coming together, and the most significant revelations might be yet to come. Don't miss out on the next chapter of this unfolding drama. Hit that subscribe button, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned as we continue to break down the royal scandal that just keeps giving. The story is far from over. Let's continue this conversation together.